Are you watching closely? The game is changing, and the stakes have never been higher. What began as a whisper in the halls of power has become a roar that threatens to engulf Latin America once more. This is not a new story. It's an old script, one that Latin America knows too well. It's a shadow of manifest destiny, stretching into the 21st century, disguised as a modern-day Monroe Doctrine. The Panama Canal, a ribbon of water connecting two oceans, a lifeline for global trade, and a symbol of both American ambition and Panamanian resilience. For generations, this narrow strip of land has been a battleground for competing interests, a stage where sovereignty and power collide. The United States, which built and controlled the canal for most of the 20th century, handed it over to Panama in 1999. That moment was hailed as a victory for Panamanian sovereignty. But now, echoes of past interventions are growing louder. The rhetoric of the Trump administration has triggered a new crisis, threatening to unravel decades of progress. The official narrative is familiar. China is dangerous, threatening U.S. security. They claim China is controlling the canal through port operations, economic agreements, but the claims are unsubstantiated. President Trump, threatening a sovereigntist ideology, threatened to take back the canal, disregarding international law and Panamanian sovereignty. The reality is far more complex. China's involvement is primarily economic, through companies like C.K. Hutchison Holdings, which operates ports at either end of the canal. Panama participates in China's Belt and Road Initiative, the BRI. Now you might be wondering, what is the BRI? This is a global development strategy, which the U.S. views with suspicion. But the BRI is framed by many around the world as an effort at economic cooperation. The U.S. sees it as a way to expand Chinese influence. Both Panama and China deny that China has any control over the canal itself. The Trump administration's approach is marked by threats and demands rather than diplomacy. A source quotes a Trump envoy dismissing concerns from international organizations by saying, and I quote, "I don't care what the Secretary General of the OAS says. I don't care what some columnist says. Do you think that we give a shit?" This is a tactic to reassert American dominance and ignore Latin American nations' self-determination. The implications for Latin America are profound. Panama is not alone in this struggle. Many nations in the region are pushing back against U.S. dominance. Sources indicate that Latin American countries are seeking to assert their independence, challenging historical patterns of U.S. intervention. And here's what's at stake: sovereignty, the principle that each nation has the right to govern itself without external interference. Trump's actions undermine this principle, signaling that the U.S. is willing to impose its will on Latin America. Economic independence, the ability of countries to diversify their economic partnerships and reduce dependence on a single power. Regional unity, the importance of Latin American nations standing together to protect their shared interests. But history teaches us to be cautious. This is not merely about a canal. It's about a broader power struggle, resurgence of a sovereigntist ideology within the United States. This is an ideology that sees international cooperation as a threat to American autonomy and that rejects the authority of international institutions. The roots of this ideology stretch back over a century, where an analysis of Trump's actions reveals a continuation of a long tradition of isolationist and anti-internationalist views. It's the belief that the welfare of the nation has been made subordinate to internationalism. If you're listening from Mexico, Colombia, from Argentina, know this: your country is next. What happens in Panama sets a precedent for the entire region. It's about more than just the canal. It's about reasserting U.S. dominance over Latin America. This is a call to action, not a passive observation. You must be more than just a listener. Challenge your governments to push back diplomatically against Washington's aggression. Demand that your leaders join together with Latin American nations. It's time to act with firmness, negotiate as a bloc, as a united Latin America, not as isolated countries. Strengthen commercial ties with Asia, Europe, and other regions to reduce dependence on solely the United States, and urge leaders to use international legal institutions like the UN and the OAS to defend Panama's sovereignty. But be aware, the Trump administration does not respect those institutions. Don't believe the lies you see on the news. They want you to fear China's presence, but China's presence is all over the world, including in US allied countries. This isn't about security, it's about control. If Latin America remains silent, the threats won't end here. The risk of a US military intervention is very real. We need unity and action now to defend not just Panama, but the entire region. The dignity of Latin America is on the line. We cannot allow this new version, this new imperial version of power in the United States to threaten nations across the Americas or even around the world. This is not 1903. This is 2025, and Latin America is no longer a backyard for the United States. It's time to act, and it's time to act now. So that's another edition of the Embassy File, and we hope that you're enjoying each one of our episodes. We are going to be trying different things. We're also going to be going over things point by point for all of you and counterpointing a lot of the narratives that are ongoing. And we appreciate all the support we've gotten in the last few days. And if you're enjoying the conversations, share, subscribe to the podcast, help us grow so that we can get the word out. You've been briefed. So until next time, we'll see you soon.